This is a download from the BBC. To find out more and our terms of use, go to bbcworldservice.com/podcasts.
You're listening to NewsHour, recorded on the 21st of March at 14 hours GMT. This is Owen Bennett-Jones, and coming up, Twitter banned in Turkey. The Prime Minister says he wants to wipe it out. If you're listening in Turkey and have access still to Twitter, do tweet us on BBC NewsHour. Soaring in the polls after his Crimea move, what are we learning about Putin's leadership?
Putin is a very malleable leader. He reflects and he reacts to situations around him. He's very unpredictable.
Is the petrol too cheap in Venezuela?
To fill an average tank of a small car costs something like about 5 American cents.
And we'll cover the latest Taliban attack in Kabul. You're listening to the BBC World Service. This is Owen Bennett-Jones with NewsHour, and today in the programme, journalists boycotting the Taliban in Kabul and getting sacked in Turkey. And also, has music forgotten the art of love?
I'm not in love, so don't forget it. She's up all night for good fun. I'm up all night to get lucky.
More on the development of lyrics a little later in the programme. But we start in Turkey, and local elections are coming, and you can tell the pressure is mounting. The Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan, up against a corruption scandal, has banned Twitter. He told a rally he'd wipe it out. People were quick to circumvent the block, including apparently the President, Abdullah Gül, who himself tweeted that only individual internet pages should be blocked if there was good reason to do it. Let's hear some of the tweets. We've voiced them up, starting with the President.
I hope this practice would not last long. If there is a criminal offence with regard to violation of privacy, then only such individual websites should be shut down.
What is more grave than the blocking of Twitter is that it is done without any court decision. Twitter is shut down just because the Prime Minister wanted it so.
Turkey has become the first country that learned of a Twitter ban via Twitter.
OK, so some of those tweets were, well, the first one was from the President, and the others were journalists managing to circumvent the ban somehow and getting their tweets out. Well, why has the government done this? Our correspondent in Turkey is Selin Girit.
The official justification of the ban is linked to these corruption allegations. The government says these tapes leaked online and posted on Twitter, and alleging that there are serious corruption involving the Prime Minister and his immediate family and certain ministers. These are fake, and these are actually invading the privacy of others. They're saying there are 3 court orders and a prosecutor decision for banning Twitter. However, there is some judicial confusion about the interpretation of these. Certain lawyers say that the ban was for certain contents posted online by certain individual Twitter users, and could not be applied as a blanket ban. So there is that confusion going on, and there are appeals now being filed against this ban to be lifted.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to hear about those appeals in a moment. But the thing I don't get about this, how does the Prime Minister go to a rally and say, I'm going to wipe Twitter out, and then in a day or two, all these courts are issuing orders? What's the mechanism for that? What's the law?
3 of these court orders were issued prior to the Prime Minister making that speech. And in that speech, he actually said, we have the court order and we will wipe out Twitter. But yesterday, there was this prosecutor decision, apparently. That's what the telecommunication agency says to justify the ban. The Istanbul chief prosecutor says, we haven't got any decision like that. We didn't take any decision like that. This is an executive decision, not related to us.
And that was Selin Girit, BBC correspondent. Dr. Aykan Erdemir is a member of parliament from the Republican People's Party, so it's the largest opposition party in Turkey. He came through to talk about this. What does he make of the Twitter ban?
It's an interesting coincidence. I represent the city of Bursa, and it was in his rally in Bursa yesterday that Prime Minister Erdogan raised the issue of shutting off Twitter for the first time. And this can be seen as a draconian reaction to the leaks concerning corruption and graft probe. And latest internet censorship law was in fact aiming to do more surgical censorship. meaning to target either particular content or specific URLs. Whereas the draconian intervention of last night shut off Twitter for good, and it's a bit surprising also on our end.
Were you also surprised that the president challenged it with his own tweet quite so sort of openly and directly?
No, it's not surprising because President Abdullah Gül has also earlier expressed his differing opinions with the Prime Minister, but he always does it in a very careful and balanced way. Because he doesn't want to lose support of the AK Party grassroots. So it is often a symbolic gesture, simply, I think, to appease the disgruntled masses. But it will not have a significant effect on the outcome.
Well, yeah, tell us how you read this in terms of public opinion. I mean, you're from the opposition, obviously, so we'll see what you say through that prism, as it were. But how much opposition is there to what the Prime Minister has done with Twitter?
Let's see what the people have done since the blockage has begun. As of yesterday, Turkish users are heavily either reconfiguring their DNS configurations or they're downloading VPN programs or learning to tweet via SMS. We have seen an upsurge in Twitter activity as of this morning, and I can say that the mood is outrage, shock, a desire to change things so that this can never happen again.
I must say, we've noticed at the BBC that Turkey seems to have a lot of people using Twitter, more than most countries. Why do you think that is?
I think, especially in the second half of the AK Party rule in Turkey, there has been severe restrictions on the media and journalists. That's one of the reasons why Turkey is at the top of the various media blacklists in the world. And this necessitates for the citizens to find alternative means to share information, to express their opinions, and also to reach reliable information. And Prime Minister's draconian response, I think, is simply the last logical step he could have taken. And it's only 10 days before the local elections, and his prospects don't look very bright. And each day there are more embarrassing leaks and wiretaps and footage. And it seems the only way to silence this is by shutting off Twitter altogether.
And what about your next move from the opposition? There'll be a legal challenge, I think. What are you expecting that to achieve?
We are taking Prime Minister Erdogan to court because we think he is in breach of personal freedoms in Turkey. Meanwhile, the Turkish Bar Association is also taking the government to court, especially the regulatory agency on telecommunications, because ban on Twitter, they believe, is without proper legal grounding and without the proper court order.
And that was Dr. Aykan Erdemir there, an opposition MP. Well, one of Turkey's best-selling novelists, Elif Shafak, has got more than 1.5 million followers on Twitter.